Hello, hello, hello. The one and only OG. Welcome in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you doing? So we're still cruising along, watching Dangerous Drivers. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you guys got to enjoy the little short I made earlier. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. So today, our topic is witness intimidation and forfeiture by wrongdoing. What exactly does that mean? Welcome in, Newman Gaming. It's good to see you. Hopefully, I can keep some service this time. I always feel bad. I can't even explain to you guys, like, stream's gonna end. It just cuts me off. I hope everyone is doing well on this wonderful Monday afternoon. Monday afternoon. It's not morning anymore, Inky. Duh. It's okay. I'm a little slow. Can't make fun of me. Har. So we're going to discuss on how to reduce opportunities for intimidation. I'm going to educate you about intimidation. I'm going to educate you on how to preserve intimidation evidence that will help convict the offender, regardless of whether or not the victim testifies. Um, Litigating motions to admit evidence under forfeiture by wrongdoing doctrine. If any of you are familiar, even if you're not in my live now, feel free to make a comment later on any of my videos. Tell me what you think, or if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to um, respond to any of your comments or questions. So we're going to discuss the strategies of preserving evidence, charge intimidation crimes. So if you viewed my previous live discussion, we were discussing harassment um, and how the perpetrators like to intimidate, so you don't file a claim, file a report. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss how to reduce the opportunities for the perpetrator to intimidate you. Biscuit, good to see you. Welcome in, sweetheart. I'm going to educate you on these strategies and also how how to use intimidation evidence effectively and how to charge intimidation crimes. This is fun, I kind of like, these like little driving live. This is nice. You don't have to look at my ugly mug. Anyways, okay, so um, witness intimidation is part of power and control, force, fraud, and coercion. Typically in interpersonal violent relationships, it's more power control and witness intimidation, whereas on the more trafficking end of it, it's more force, fraud, and coercion. Now, I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately. What, and I'm going to do a live stream on it. What do you consider trafficking? What does law enforcement consider trafficking? And we're not just talking about trafficking children. Um, as in, like sex trafficking, but trafficking in general. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that live that's going to be coming up next, probably, after my trip. So perpetrators are not threatening the victims, but they're using more sophisticated emotional appeals designed to minimize their actions and gain sympathy of the victim. I kind of went over that yesterday. How they use the empathy, sympathy notion more than, really trying to intimidate you in the beginning. So I'm also going to educate you on how to advise you on what to expect, provide instruction on how to preserve your evidence, determine a point of contact for you, whom to report to when you're not in immediate danger, but how you can report incidences that are taking place to a victim service provider. And also how to not minimize your contact with the offender. I know that sounds weird, but when you minimize your contact with the offender, sometimes you're also minimizing the evidence that you could be collecting. Keep that in mind. I'm also going to help educate you on supporting lifestyle changes that will help make you safer in the future. Determine your need and willingness to participate in formal and informal relocation. So I know that sounds very like a hostile move, but sometimes when you're being harassed and stalked, you end up having to relocate, whether it's jobs or just a complete relocation of residence, etc., to try to get away from that person. And it can be very daunting. Helping you connect with victim services that will also help educate you and continuing you making a productive and useful safety plan. If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them up in chat. I will try to keep an eye on chat while I'm having this discussion. I'll do my best. I'm not the best at it, but I will do my best. So the first thing you're always going to look for and to make sure that you're doing is, keeping yourself as safe as possible. That is your first and foremost responsibility for you and your family members. If you have children, making sure that they are staying safe. If you guys are not aware, there is a victim outreach office. This office is out of Denver, Colorado. I would throw the number up in chat, but I can't type and everything all at the same time. So I'm just going to read it out. So if you do need to go back and rewind the video, the timestamp is at 10:05, and the phone number for the victim outreach is 720-913-8020. They'll have a lot of resources also to help walk you through the process of case building and case process. So the defendant may blame you for their arrest. Well, of course they're going to blame you for the arrest. You're the one that filed the case, etc. But you're doing it for, your best interest. You can't take that blame and wear that guilt as in a guilty shame. You're doing what's in the best interest of yourself. If they have a problem with it, that's their personal problem. Let them deal with it. You may think to yourself, this never had to happen to you. And so, like, a perpetrator will be like, well, this didn't have to happen. You made me do this. They'll also state, like, hey, you started this. You're always nagging me, or you're always, bringing me up or picking on me. Again, that's their way of trying to twist things around instead of you being on the defense of something they've done. Narcissists like to twist the story and try to reverse that so then you feel guilty instead of them actually feeling remorse for their actions. Um, they'll say, you never should have called the police. Now look what mess we're in. And that's, typically happens in more of like an interpersonal relationship. A lot of them will be like, oh, you're a cop caller. Or they would say, I would never have called the police on you. These are just examples of things that they would say. They would possibly say, hey, this cost me my job. Well, now, if you wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have had to retaliate and you wouldn't have had to lose your job. That's just plain and simple. What did you tell them and how am I supposed to defend myself? Well, if the incident wouldn't have happened to begin with, you wouldn't have to be defending yourself. And I know it's hard, I might sound crass right now, and I know sometimes I'm at a loss for words because in my brain just, because I've already been through it, my brain is on an immediate, well, if you wouldn't have done this, then this wouldn't have been the result. There is always going to be a result to any action that is taken. Result probably isn't the right word. There's always going to be the repercussions of someone's actions. And so when someone does something, you can stand by idly until you are to the point that you're in fear of your life, or you can nip that shit in the ass when it starts. Just saying. A lot of ladies are softer spoken and they don't really know how to buck up and be like, I guess it would be talking back. Would that be the right word? Would it be talking back? Because that's what the offender would probably say. Oh, you like to talk back. Oh, you have a smart mouth. I was told that I needed to toughen up my skin a little bit. I think I did a damn good job. Okay, the defendant might try to talk you out of appearing in court. Now, I've seen this a lot in all actuality where there's a domestic violence situation. And the defendant's like, please don't go to court. If you don't go to court, there's no witness, there's no conviction. In some cases, that's true. Depends on how serious the charge is, because it's very, very possible that the district attorney's office will pick up the case and you don't have to be there. They'll pick it up for you. There's also ways that you can appear in court via video, via phone. You can explain to your victim service provider that you have, PTSD from the situation and you don't want to appear in person. You can't handle appearing in person. So there is other options to appearing in court if you have to. You don't always have to see the offender face to face or your perpetrator face to face. So they'll think that if you don't show up in court that this will go away. And they think that they can get the charges dropped, or they'll try to convince you to drop the charges. And some women do. They will. And then they'll be back in there again and again and again. In typical situation, typical 7 times before they fully commit contact and prosecuting their offender. The defendant may threaten you. The perpetrator may threaten you with, if you show up in court, you'll pay for it. No, you'll pay for it. Because I'm sure that her attorney or his attorney is going to make sure you pay for it monetarily, not just, by getting into trouble. You have to drop the protective order. If you don't, you'll be homeless. Now, for those of you that don't know, if you do go file a protective order, they can't shut off your phone, they can't shut off your utilities, and they can't stop paying the lease or the rent or the mortgage. Whatever the utilities are for living sustainability, they are not allowed to shut those off. We have, let's see here. If you don't drop the charges, I'm going to report you to Child Protective Services. Oh, so are you threatening me that if I don't do something that you're going to abuse more, in other words? Because that's what that would be. That would be them, again, trying to abuse you psychologically because they physically can't do it at the moment. And this is a vicious cycle. If you show up in court, I'll fight for custody of the kids. Okay, well, that's fine. You can fight for the kids, but you're also the one that has the report on you for domestic violence. So you have to take their threats and kind of look at them. Why is this person threatening me in a type of way? Because they want to gain control over you. Let me repeat that for those in the back. Anyone who is threatening you is trying to gain control over you to get you to do something they want you to do. Period. Can everyone still hear me? If you can you type a 1 in chat? Just in case. So like I was saying, you really have to think about what is their motive for the threatening. What's the motive? You got to kind of like read between the lines, but really you're reading between the lies. Have you heard these same stories before? Have you heard this? If you don't do this, I'm going to do this. Is it something that's repetitive? Have they done it to other people? And this goes for more than just IPV, you guys and gals. This is anyone that's abusing you in this type of way by threatening you. So don't be tricked by their lies. Own your life. And, let me help you. Let me give you advice. Take my advice if you can, to the best of your ability. If you don't trust my advice, find an advocate in your local area that maybe you feel more secure with. Maybe someone you can meet in person and, sit down and talk with. They're not there to judge you. They're there to listen to you, to believe you, to stand by you, to walk you through the court process, to stand with you in court, to stand by your side through the process. And the process isn't easy, especially when it's someone you really care about or someone you love, like a family member or, your current, a current person in your life. It can be really, really, really tasking and daunting on you emotionally to feel like you're betraying your relationship because of something they've done, and that's the guilt that they've placed on you. Thank you, Arctic Timberwood. Thank you, Human Gaming, for letting me know. I appreciate it. So only unsuccessful intimidation ever come to the attention of a police officer or prosecutors. Why is that? If you know why, type it in the chat. Hold on, I gotta set my cruise control. If you know why, let me know in the chat. continuing or continuation and escalation. So DB and HT dynamics, post arrest and pre filing, and leading up to the trial. So the question was, only unsuccessful intimidation ever comes to the attention of police officers and prosecutors. Why is that? Only unsuccessful intimidation ever come across the attention of police officers and prosecutors. Would you like me to tell you the hint? I can give you a hint, because if it's unsuccessful at the intimidation technique, that case is on their desk. You get me? They weren't able to intimidate you to be quiet. They weren't able to intimidate you to not file for that protective order. They weren't able to intimidate you to keep your mouth shut, basically. So you want to limit the opportunities for the perpetrator, the offender, to intimidate you. You want to limit the engagement of where the perpetrator or offender has with their victim. So in other words, like if say perhaps that you go to file for a protective order, or say you're not even filing for a protective order, say you're filing just the police report, right? You want to be able to do that by with a sound mind, knowing that you are secure enough in the decision that you're making, and not be convoluted by people that are not going to be there to defend you or stand up and support you. So you want to limit your contact with those that may not agree with your decisions. So say Arctic, say you want to file a police report against somebody, and everybody else is like, you have 10 friends, and 6 of them are like, no, it's just going to make this worse or whatever. But in your heart that if you don't do this, it's just going to keep escalating and escalating and escalating. It's just going to continue. So you have to go with your gut and then be like, you know what, if you can't agree with the decisions I'm making for the best of me and my family, then you need to step aside and out of my way, basically. Make sure you're working with someone that is helping you ensure a safety plan, and that it also includes, tech safety, as far as like your phone, internet, email, social media. Be present for the defense interviews. Now, you can be present and you don't have to see said person. Say somebody, okay, somebody that said the police report is filed against is the police. Okay, no, that's perfectly fine. You can file a report against the police. You can do that with your attorney general's office. That's what they're there for. They're the ones that, that you seek refuge from when police aren't doing their job. That's their job to go in and handle that appropriately. See who's not doing their job right. And also, even if it's the police department not doing their job, I have to say, evidence. Always keep evidence, and keep multiple copies of it in case you lose a copy of it. Always keep a copy of it. not all law enforcement is perfect. There's always going to be some crooked something somewhere. So, you do have to give them the benefit of the doubt, but if they are not doing what they are supposed to be doing per your jurisdiction, per law, per code, then you have to go higher to your attorney general, who is in charge of making sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, the state attorney general is in charge of, basically, they're the ones that make them accountable for any law enforcement within your entire state. Some they may. I can't say they don't, Arctic. I can't say they don't. You also have to know on what grounds that took place. What position was the officer put in for that to happen? Was it, and hopefully that officer, if he did it, under the wrong terms, then, he will be dealt with in a manner that he should be dealt with. If you need extra security measures, don't be scared to ask for it. There, law enforcement and the judicial system knows that there is a long history of witness intimidation and tampering. Look at the Diddy situation. That's why they don't want to let him out. Tampering with the witness, tainting the witness. Get it, tainting. Keep a record. At some point, you may need to relocate. Not always. But sometimes it's not a bad idea if you can afford it. Then, again, you do what's best for you and your family. If you have children of, the teen age where they're like, I don't want to leave my school, you'll have to sit down with them and explain to them it's in the best interest. And if they've grown up seeing abuse, then, they may be more understanding than you think. I know it's hard sometimes to pull your children out of school and relocate them, but you always have to put your safety first and the safety of your family. Welcome in, son, honey. It's good to see you. If you are not aware, there is a such thing called victims' compensation. And you have a right to file for that when you do file for a protective order and you have a case that you filed with law enforcement. And it's where you get reimbursed for damages. And you don't have to worry about, oh, well, what if he doesn't work? The money, the monetary supplement does not come from him. It actually comes from the state, from where other inmates have paid into donations, etc. So don't think that you can't file for it because said perpetrator doesn't work or doesn't have an income or whatever, or you think that you have to ask his permission for him to pay you. It doesn't work that way. And it's called the Federal Victims Crime Act, VOCA. Every state has one, the State Victims Compensation Program. So if you don't have a victim service provider in your area, or you don't know of them in your area, please look them up and ask them about it. Ask them about VOCA, which is helping cover costs for relocation and your immediate needs. The State Victims Fund can also help with counseling fees. Yes, it can. And it also helps with counseling with your children, not just yourself. So if your children need counseling, they do provide that. And they will give you a set dollar amount, whether it's $2,000, $5,000, or whatnot. They'll give you a set amount of how much counseling and therapy that they will help assist with. Hopefully you also have medical insurance. If not, you can also get assistance from the government for that. That can also help with counseling and therapy. It's always good, especially in situations such as those. It's so good to see you, son, honey. I hope you're doing well. You also have to prepare yourself for the offender to want to play kissy makeup. That can be complicated sometimes because you get a lot of false hopes from them. You know, they'll spit their narrative. They know you well enough that they know what to say to get you to take them back, or to ease your mind, in other words, so they can get back in good graces with you, and that vicious cycle of abuse starts again. Keep in mind that the offender is always going to minimize their abuse or cast themselves as the victim. That's a narcissistic behavior, if you've ever heard of one. Yeah. Um, they'll ask you to lie for them. Tell them I didn't do it. They don't want to go to jail. They're going to do everything in their power to help you, to have you help them stay out of jail. So you need to develop a plan, and again, keeping yourself surrounded by supportive people in your decision. Because if you don't, you'll end up being talked out of making that decision. And in the beginning, sometimes it'll be like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? My life is worse now than it was before. But it will get better. I promise. It will get better. It will not always be that way. It will be very, very rough and complicated in the beginning, but it does get better, and you learn what real peace is. And if you've never really been in a completely and utterly peaceful state of mind, it can be very scary, and you have to learn to love just you, love yourself. Because you really truly can't love someone else until you can truly love yourself. So I would like to do a quick poll for those of you that are in chat. How would you proactively assist in the witness intimidation? Would you, A, contact your victim's assistant resource? Would you, B, monitor your social media, their social media? Yeah. Or C, both? If there are plagues of locusts in Montana, I always wanted to go to Montana. I think they're, do they have those in like Nebraska too? Because I believe I've driven through Nebraska before, and there was these black bugs that it looked like the asphalt was moving. Are those locusts? I don't know for sure. I was very, very young. I was still in my teens when I saw them. Weirded me out. Turned off the air conditioner, shut all the vents, and went and opened the door. I know. Funny, inky stories. C, all the above. Good job. Now, there's things that your advocate, your advocate assistant can help you with, and I'm going to assume that there's, in this scenario, I'll use this as a scenario. I will assume that you're being, you know what? I'll use Newman as an example. How about that? So you got to be proactive with me, Newman, in chat, okay? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to assume that Newman is being intimidated by his perpetrator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to placate this little story so then you guys can kind of understand how this works. So Newman comes to me and says, "Hey, Inky, I'm in a really bad relationship and I need to get a protective order, but I don't know anybody around here. I'm from a different area. I don't have any friends. All I know is her friends." Okay. So one, I look at the situation as, okay, so Newman doesn't have any contact resources here to help be supportive of him. So number one, my first thing is I need to be supportive of Newman and let him know that, hey, I'm here to listen. I'm here to walk you through it. Feel free to call me if you need to, etc., etc. That's step one, reassuring him. Okay. Step two is taking down the information that he is willing to give without pushing the situation or making him uncomfortable with the fact that he has to now divulge his personal life with a stranger. And that can be very hard because you're like, you may not want to talk about your sex life. What if you've been being SA'd in your relationship? He may not want to admit to that. So you have to be understanding. And, from my perspective, like I have to be understanding to know that there's things that may be uncomfortable for him to talk about, in other words. So, there are certain questions that I would have to, ask, like, has this said person, had anything like this happen before in their past? Oh, I don't know. Well, Newman, you got to be proactive in chat. You got to help me out here. I don't know your story. I'm kind of helping make one up for you. So right now, you're living in an area with your wife in an area that you never lived before. You don't know anybody, and you only know, like, say, your wife's family or friends. This is kind of fun. So I'm going to ask you, Newman, um, is there a prior history of intimidation? Has your wife tried to intimidate you before to keep you from, trying to get help from, her abuse? Arctic Wolf says, "Can I help be the weapons dealer and help arm Newman if you'd like?" And yes, you know what? You can be. Okay, how about that? Has there, Newman, has there been any other criminal or civil cases against your wife? I'm waiting for him to respond. Oh, there has. Okay. Well, you know what I can do? Do you know where they were located? If you do, I can look up those cases and that will help form a background for your case that we're going to file in this protective order. How does that sound? If there's anything you're uncomfortable with, you need to let me know. And that's how an advocate would help, reassure, their client. So she's a hardened criminal. I guess so, Arctic. In Cobb County, Georgia. Mm, hers a Southern girl. Are them Southern girls rough down there? Okay. The other times they left or tried to leave. Okay. So in other words, um, has there been any other times that you have tried to leave your relationship? And has there been any other victims other than yourself? I guess she is Arctic Timber Wolf. Yes, and I have failed. Okay. Well, that's what you're here for today is, we're going to walk you through the process and help you not fail this time. The only way to get resolved is by continuing your journey. So things I can do is I can go back and monitor maybe her. Has she ever been in jail before? Your son got punched in the face by her also. Did you file a report on that? Was she in jail for that? Yes, she was arrested twice. Wow, what a little criminal she is. Okay, well, you know what I can do? I can go back and review her past jail phone calls and visits that she's had, her previous record, and we can help build this well-rounded scope of information for the DA to look at. So when they do look at your case, they can see that there is a very substantial amount of information of criminal history that will help you procure your protective order. And in some states, those protective orders can be indefinite, by the way. She broke an EPO and they took her back, but we didn't have any family here to help us, my son and I. Oh my goodness. It can be very rough in situations like that, Newman, especially when you don't have family. You don't have uh, that 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 blanket of comfort that you're doing the right thing, and it can put you in a position where you end up back in that situation again. So how does that sound to you? I can go back and look through the history and monitor some jail phone calls. I can search her up by her old inmate PIN numbers, or also known as destination phone numbers. Are you okay with that? Arctic Wolf says, "Are you married, Newman?" That would help us out a lot. But what if she finds out? Well, this is what I suggest. I suggest to you, as an advocate, that you set up a separate email account, an email account that she is not familiar with. And you are able to communicate with me back and forth. I can help obtain this information for you and for your case and for your attorney and for the DA. Does that sound okay? Amazing. Well, here, let me leave you my information. I will get started on the information that you gave me, and I will touch base with you. If there's anything you need, here's my number. You can call me anytime. So that's typically what are my options after this. So after our meeting, I will gather the information that we need to build your case. And then we will hand that case folder over to the district attorney. And I can sit with you in court if it would make you feel more comfortable instead of you being in there alone. I can help walk you through that step by step. And you guys, this is typically how an advocate should be working for you and should be standing in for you and being that mediator, so you don't have to go back and explain your story over and over and over and over again, which all it's doing is re-traumatizing you. And by that re-traumatization, it is putting you in a position to where the perpetrator, when they step in, you're already overwhelmed. You've told your story, and then you start second guessing your decision making. Okay, sounds good. That would help us out a lot. Thank you. Oh, you're most welcome. Arctic Wolf. Now, also, before you leave, do you have anything to protect yourself at home? Do you have any, bear spray, mace, under the sink household chemicals? Do you have a criminal record? Are you able to carry a weapon? Now, mind you, if you have a protective order in most states, especially ones that are open carry, you are allowed to have that as a concealed carry. But you have to check in your own state's jurisdiction. But in some states, that is very feasible. You're allowed to protect yourself 1,000% once a protective order is in place. This is where Arctic Timber Wolf would step in. Now Newman, you could say, hey, Arctic, I need to protect myself. What do you have as options? And Arctic, that's not an AR-15. I can kind of guess how you think, buddy. Oh, so Arctic asked a good question. He goes, the reason I asked, Newman, is if so, do you have joint custody? You can simply visit your family wherever they are and take your son with. Yes, especially after the protective order is in place. A lot of times, if the perpetrator has a real violent history, they will, they will do what's in the best interest of the child. And you always have to keep that in mind, especially in like a family court case or, an IPB case. The judge is always going to look at what is in the best interest of the children. If there's children involved, what is in the best interest of, the victim, the survivor, you have to look at it that way. And I have to say this, in most cases, the judges are going to make the right decisions. If you feel that your judge is not paying attention to the evidence that's in hand, again, go back to your attorney general, talk to your attorney general, make sure you show documentation. Let's see, Newman says, I am good with stuff like the plague of balls and supernatural things like that. Really? Oh, I think Arctic Wolf and Newman, you guys could probably get together and do like some like witchery stuff. Okay. Newman says, I have full custody, but I don't have the means to travel. And with all of our stuff, we have a lot and need and no help to move and get back and forth to court. Now, that with the victims assistance program, they can help you with those types of things. They can also help with relocation, and they can also help you with funds for a new place to live within your means. Arctic Wolf says if you can get a U-Haul, yeah, they can help you do those things. There is so many resources out there that people don't really know about, and it's one of the reasons I even made this channel was to put that information out there for you guys to know that there is resources if you're in a situation that you need to get out of. Are you able to set me up with a worker? Like what type of worker? Like a DHS worker or employment? DHS does have employment workers if you are in need of supporting yourself, and they will also work with you and help provide you some income. And if you don't have training, they will help provide you with training, schooling, whatever it is you need. Some of that helps with moving and getting back to the court cases. Yes, they can. So the victim's assistance, VOCA, will help you with your moving expenses. And your advocate, like myself, will help you with travel and making sure that you're at your court cases. By the way, Newman, were you able to speak with Arctic Wolf? Was he able to help you with arming yourself and protection? Role play is fun, you guys. It really is. Okay, now what if she gets out of jail? Okay, well, there is this such thing as called fine. And with fine, they help notify you. They help notify you, oh, she is in jail right now. Oh, hold on. So hold on. Let me go back to the chat. I might have missed something. Okay, now what if she gets out of jail? What should I do to keep this from her attention? Keep what from her attention? Oh, she's going to know about the case, if that's what you mean. She's in jail. They notify her while she's in there, why she's in there. And they will know that if she is released on bond, depending on the situation, I mean, if it was, attempted, unaliving, she's going to have a pretty high bond to have to get out on. I wish there wasn't quite such a delay, but it's okay. Um, File a restraining order and move to a secure spot. Exactly. And there's lots of resources out there to do so. And if there's any of you that may watch this video later, one, I hope you enjoyed the role play. Two, I hope you gained some, really good knowledge on the process, kind of how it works, what you'll kind of go through, um, what things you may be looking at. For instance, like Newman is worried that, what happens now? Like, what happens when she finds out that there's a case against her? He's probably worried that, oh my gosh, she's really going to be angry now. She's going to get out on bail and she's really going to come after me. Well, if she's incarcerated, the protective order will automatically be served to her while she's incarcerated. So one, she can't run from it. And two, being that there's been charges, the protective order will 99.9% be granted for at least, depending on your jurisdiction, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, indefinitely. So keep those things in mind. But Arctic gave me bear spray for that witch. Oh, that's awesome. As long as it's legal in your state, keep that in mind. We don't want to do anything that is not legal to protect yourself, because you don't want to catch a charge and then, end up it hampering the relationship with your children in custody, etc. You can trade it in for a bear spray for a nitrogen laser for $39.99. I'm so glad you're working with them, Timberwolf. That is amazing. You got a pellet gun too? Maybe a paint gun. Those things hurt. Get them right in the eyeball. Maybe in the JJ. You could shoot her in the man of the boat. Just kidding. Okay. Anyways, I hope you all gained some knowledge. Thank you so much, Arctic Timberwolf, for being here and joining me in this. It's great. Thank you, Newman. You're amazing, as always. Yeah. You only deal in stoner, Dinky. Okay, so twigs aren't going to work for payment? But what if he only has pebbles or maybe sand? At any rate, I love you all. Thank you for being here. Mwah. I hope you all have a wonderful Monday night. And I will catch you on the flip side. Love you.